Good morning, fight fans. Welcome back to another episode of Mike's MMA Picks Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show, brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. We're back after a long layoff, headed to UFC DC, the nation's capital, for a tremendous event. We've got 9 fights that are expected to go to a decision here. Very hotly debated main event. A few fighters missed weight here. I want to keep an eye on that. But let's kick things off. We've got a nice fire roaring in the back. Sun's starting to come up. Almost 6 a.m. We're going to start in the middleweight division, where we have longtime vet Trevor Smith taking on Means-Alves. Muradov came onto the scene recently as far as UFC goes, but he spent a lot of time in the regional scene. One of Floyd Mayweather's fighters, in fact, the only mixed martial arts fighter under Floyd Mayweather's banner. He brings some dynamic striking to the table, volume, very, very athletic. Coming in at 9,400 in DraftKings, minus 440 at the betting window. So we've got one of the biggest favorites on the card, 29 years of age. So still some room for growth there. Both of these fighters, similar size as far as height goes, but you've got Trevor Smith, who is a longtime vet, big-time wrestler back in the day. Was in fact a All-American at Iowa State. Long time ago, though. So Trevor Smith's coming in at 6,800 plus 350 underdog. Been around the block. So when you watch Trevor Smith, he has a suffocating style to him, but struggles if he can't get to the fight to the ground. Looks to counter. Slow striker. I really feel like Smith is going to be at a big disadvantage from a volume perspective. I'm going to go with Muradov here to win this fight inside the distance late. DiCirico gave Muradov a run for his money. Muradov looked gassed in his last fight, but I think that unless Trevor Smith gets this fight to the ground and drains Muradov out, he's going to be in a world of trouble. So give me Muradov inside the distance. Next up, we've got ladies 115-pound division. We've got Verma Jandiroba taking on Mallory Martin. Jandiroba, 9,100. So she's one of your higher-priced fighters in DraftKings, minus 275 favorite. Fighting out of Brazil. 31 years of age. She's former Invicta champion, taking on Mallory Martin. Mallory Martin coming in on short notice here. Mallory Martin, 7,100 in DraftKings, plus 225 underdog. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 240, but I would not rule out a submission victory here on this side of Miss Jandiroba. Mallory Martin, she's had her way with opponents in the past. Well, recent opponents. She's on a 5-win streak right now. We saw her on the Contender Series make easy work of an Italian fighter. And problem here is, although we haven't seen Martin submitted in her short mixed martial arts career, she's going to be up against a serious threat. Jandiroba is going to be hunting for submissions, not only if she is able to get top position, but also off of her back. Everybody is talking about Mallory Martin's boyfriend, Deron Wynn, who has a spectacular wrestling pedigree, but something that concerns me, you talk about work ethic, etc. Deron Wynn missed weight last time out and also gassed out in his last fight. So, you can't expect traits, characteristics to transfer between partners here in relationships. I think that's a little crazy to make that stretch. To make that stretch connection. So give me Jandiroba to win this fight. And I'm not going to rule out a submission victory. I think she's just going to be, her scrambling ability is going to be too much, and she's going to outwork Mallory Martin. Next up, we're going to head to the men's lightweight division. We've got Matt Wiman. That's a name for you. Last win in 2014. Taking on an up-and-coming Joe Solecki. Joe Solecki, 8-2. Spends time between North Carolina and New Jersey. 9,300 in DraftKings, -360 favorite. Young, hungry kid making his UFC debut. Taking on a Matt Wiman, who we saw him last time out get brutalized by Luis Pena. 6,900 for Matt Wiman, +290 underdog. Solecki's got a 3.5-inch reach advantage in this fight. Matt Wiman in the past has found success late in fights, ugly fights, where he's able to draw opponents into a slugfest. But in this spot, I think you're dealing with a Joe Solecki who is a mature fighter who's ready for this opportunity. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He was knocked out last year, so that's something to consider. Wouldn't go all in on him. But Solecki's got a submission game. He's got formidable stand-up. I like what I see from him. I also believe we're going to see a big quickness advantage on behalf of Joe Solecki. So give me Joe Solecki to win this fight inside the distance. This fight is expected to go to a decision at -155, but I'm going to bank on Solecki getting a finish here. And one thing to remember when you're constructing these DraftKings lineups, a lot of folks are going to gravitate towards the popular names out there. So Alistair Overeem, Rob Font, Thiago Alves, Tim Means. Names that jump off the page are probably going to be some popular fighters out there that people will gravitate towards, especially considering their price tag. So Solecki, maybe a sneaky play here. You also have to look at fights that are expected to end inside the distance. Only 3 of them this time out, so we have one that's pretty close here. Next up, we've got very hotly debated matchup at 145 pounds. We've got Mitchell-Sayles, 8-2 record, 8,200 in DraftKings, -130 favorite. This line had flipped, taking on Bryce Mitchell, $8,000 in DraftKings, +110 underdog. Bryce Mitchell, Arkansas, 11-0 officially, although he did lose to Brad Katona on the Contender Series, tapped out. Had a nice victory over Bobby Moffitt. Went blood and guts with Tyler Diamond. Sayles is going to be coming into this fight with a big striking advantage on the feet. Before I get any further, if you're able to watch the weigh-ins yesterday, there was a pretty much we saw a scare on the weigh-ins on the scales. Sayles came in at 148.5 pounds, had difficulty just navigating onto the scale itself and getting off. Looked to be in really rough shape physically. I'm concerned about that. So Sayles we saw on the Contender Series. We also saw him battle through adversity against Smith-Muradov. He was eye-poked a number of times in that fight, then went on to completely destroy Kyle Nelson during the first round of their matchup, gassed himself out, and then got a submission late in the fight after being put on his back and almost getting caught in a submission himself. I have big concerns about Sayles on the ground here. I also have big concerns about Sayles the longer this fight goes. I really concerned about his weight cut issues. Last time out against Kyle Nelson, he admitted that he cut 40 pounds in 12 weeks. I think that's a problem. And he hasn't fixed that. Bryce Mitchell gives you everything he has from beginning to end. And in this fight, I think we're going to see some scrambles. I think this fight is going to hit the ground. Sayles trains with Dominic Cruz at Alliance. And I know he's got him coached up for this fight. He's going to be dealing with somebody who is a formidable opponent, southpaw who has a reach advantage, but Sayles, his striking is next level. Honestly, to me, it looks like he could be a professional boxer in there, the way he throws his hands. And I think Sayles' footwork is going to be a big plus. I think that Sayles may have been working on his escapability. You can't trust what you can't see, though. I'm going to slightly lean Sayles in this spot. This fight, let's see, it is expected to go to a decision at -160. Give me Sayles to win a decision. I have concerns about Bryce Mitchell. The longer the fight goes, if they end up back on the feet, there's a tendency for Bryce to leave his hands down. So that's one place where Sayles can capitalize, but there is the possibility that Sayles gasses out and gets grinded out on the ground. So give me Sayles to win this fight. Next up, we've got a sloppy slobber knocker between Kilburn-Quarantillo and Jacob Kilburn. Jacob Kilburn coming in at with an 8-2 record. Quarantillo 12-2. Quarantillo 9,200 in DraftKings, -325 favorite. Kilburn $7,000 plus 255 underdog. Got to watch out for Kilburn's right hand. He's got a devastating overhand right. Was recently choked out by Bobby Moffitt. Now, Quarantillo, we've seen get lit up in the past. He's a tough veteran who was on the McGregor series. I have concerns rostering either fighter as far as DraftKings goes, but this is one of only 3 fights that's expected to end inside the distance. So if you do plan on winning a GPP, this is a fight to target. A concern of mine on Billy's part is that he is a self-admitted slow starter. So that's something you got to take into consideration. He tends to take a beating up front and then capitalizes by using a wide variety of strikes. He's been training down at Gracie Tampa, and his pressure has broken fighters in the past. So it's either Kilburn catches him early, or Quarantillo, just the volume ends up taking over and winning late. I understand why the fight's lined the way it is, but I think it's a little too wide for my liking. This fight, I'm going to go with Quarantillo to stop Kilburn. I think Kilburn's just too sloppy, takes too many risks. But as far as a wagering option here, I would stay away from this fight. Next up, we have another fight that could be lined a little bit too wide for some folks. We've got Tim Means taking on Thiago the Pitbull Alves. Alves 23-14. Tim Means 28-11-1. Tim Means coming off of that devastating loss to Nico Price, where he was winning the fight handily. Looked like he was making his move to go in for the kill shot, and he ended up getting popped against the cage and fracturing his ankle as well as his lower leg in that fight. So he's going to be coming back from that. Tim Means $9,000 in DraftKings, -270 favorite. Thiago Alves 7,200 in DraftKings, currently +220 at the betting window. Something that jumps off the page here, besides that layoff or that recovery from Means, was that he initially missed weight, had to go back and cut an extra half pound before getting back on the scale. That money means a lot to Tim Means. He's hunting for a bonus here. I've noticed a significant sense in urgency in his recent fights, especially after back-to-back split decision losses. He lost a fight to Sergio Moraes that, in my eyes, the judges should have given him the nod, but you can't trust what's happening in Brazil. He has a significant striking edge, Tim Means does, in this fight. He also has a significant reach advantage. I was watching Thiago Alves and not only his Instagram, but also some of his interviews. He's brought in a few lanky southpaws to try to emulate what Tim Means is going to do. For all the hate that Thiago Alves has gotten over the years, the guy brings it every time he fights. You look at his fight against Millander, even against Staropoli. There are times when he could have checked out, and he didn't. The Millander fight, he got head kicked and finished, but there have been other fights, even the Carlos Condit fight, which I think, although it took place a few years ago, is a very similar fight to how things will play out here. He did not go away. When I watch the interviews here, both of these fighters are on the last fight of their UFC contract, and I suspect they're going to lay it all on the line this fight. The inside the distance odds have fluctuated, and originally, I believe the fight does not go the distance, was hovering in the -130, -150 region. It actually is back down to -120. Something of concern for me is Tim Means is openly requesting Thiago Alves to test his surgically repaired ankle, but I see this as a strategic move on his part. He knows that those calf kicks are coming, but if they do come his way, he's going to be looking to land that straight left down the pipe, and we'll see who gives out first. I have I have concerns about Tim Means' gas tank in this fight coming off of the surgery. But then I also have concerns about Thiago Alves and wearing damage late. I think this is going to be a high volume striking affair, especially when we get into the latter rounds. Alves is going to probably look to get on his horse, land leg kicks, dance around. Fighting out of ATT, they definitely have Alves coached up. So he should come out here with a decent game plan. But I've got to lean with the favorite here. I think the odds are a little wide. I'm going to go with Tim Means to win this fight, possibly via stoppage late. I do have concerns that Tim Means may gas himself out, though. So it's a volatile. You're taking a risk when you play Tim Means. He's fallen flat on his face a few times as a favorite. No pun intended, but I like Tim Means in this spot to get the victory. Next up, we have a really an awesome matchup between Rob Font and Ricky Simón. Ricky Simón, 15-2, 7,700 in DraftKings, plus 125 underdog, taking on Rob Font, who's a great teammate, 16-4. Rob Font, 8,500 in DraftKings, minus 145 favorite over at BetDSI. Rob Font went out with Calvin Kattar recently and helped him out for his fight with Zabit. This fight here is expected to go to a decision at minus 195. We got 135 pounders here. This is going to be a high-action fight, man. Ricky Simón, we saw he dropped the ball big time against Uriah Faber last time out. Started to have success very early and then got caught with Faber's overhand right. He's got to be very careful against Rob Font here because Font is a heavy hitter and it's got a great jab. Last time we saw Font, he has had a significant layoff here. Font, last time out, took on Sergio Pettis and actually was taken down in that fight. I have concerns about Rob Font's takedown defense, and you watch the Merab fight and the Montel Jackson fight for Simón, and there is a path to victory there for Ricky Simón. He brings that pressure, and I have concerns about him being too tentative here about getting caught. He's been caught before the Uriah Faber fight, so that is a concern of mine. I'm going to pick Ricky Simón here to come through as an underdog. I think that Simón is going to win rounds, especially late. He's going to get the takedowns that he's hunting for. His ability to change levels is going to be a difference maker. And although he may not be able to hold Rob Font down, that may lend to multiple takedowns happening. And I think it's going to be a decision victory on behalf of Ricky Simón. Rob Font does have the ability to end this fight inside the distance, so proceed with caution there. So next up, we're heading another fight at 135 pounds. We've got Cody Stamann, 18-2, taking on Yadong Song. Yadong Song, 15-4. Happy birthday, Yadong Song. Just turned apparently 22 years of age, although there are many skeptics out there about what his actual age is. Yadong Song comes in with a 2.5-inch reach advantage, 8,900 in DraftKings, minus 200. Favorite taking on Stamann, who is 7,300 in DraftKings, plus 165 at the betting window. A lot of people are seeing value in Cody Stamann here. I'm not sold on Cody Stamann. I think his record is deceiving. I honestly think this is a fighter who may have peaked early in his career, although you can't say it's early in his career at this point, right? He's 18-2 now. He's 30 years of age. That loss to Aljo, granted he lost against a top contender. You watch Stamann's last few fights, and he's barely getting it done. The stiffer the competition, the more adversity he's facing. He's running into problems. I don't think that he's evolving. Yadong-Song, I have a. I think he's a bit of an unknown at this point as far as the development of his game. His takedown defense is off the charts. His takedown offense has been formidable, and his striking, very precise striker. This fight, I think Yadong-Song's going to come in here and surprise a lot of. He's going to surprise a lot of people. Cody Stamann, tough guy, gritty, built like a brick shithouse, but he also has one of the shortest reaches, if not the shortest reach I've ever seen at this weight class. You look up and down the roster, and you find me a 64-inch reach for a male fighter who's 135 pounds. He's got a shorter reach than Sean Shirk, shorter reach than Artem Lobov. And I think that's going to be an issue in this fight. I thought I had a healthy dose of respect for Cody Stamann in his fight against Tom Duquesnoy. Thought that he was going to run into some serious problems there, but he ended up winning a decision in that fight. I honestly think that he peaked in that fight. He went back to the PI. He may have developed some new tools in his arsenal. That there's always a possibility that's the case. There are no certainties in this game, but I just feel like Faber and company, Ricardo Ramos, etc., all the guys over at Faber's gym are helping Yadong-Song grow and mature. And I'm interested to see what happens if this fight goes late, how Yadong-Song's gas tank holds up, because he does throw a lot of power into his punches. This guy throws bombs. Did you see what he did to Alejandro Perez? That was something very special. So there is recency bias baked into this line. If you got in early, Yadong-Song's price actually got down to about -160, -165 for a couple of days, and then bounced back up. I would feel more comfortable playing him at that line, obviously, compared to where he is now. But give me Yadong-Song to get the victory in this spot. Next up, we have Aspen Ladd taking on Ladd-Kunitskaya. Kunitskaya, 30 years old, although she appears to look much older. 7,500 plus 145 underdog. Maybe the Cyborg fight took some years off her life. 8,700 for Aspen Ladd plus -165 favorite. Kunitskaya coming in with the 2.5-inch reach advantage. Aspen Ladd 8-1. We saw her last time out get sparked by GDR, and prior to that, against Sijara Eubanks, she was in a dogfight, man. She Ladd, when she was on top, she was dominating, but other than that, she was running into a buzzsaw with Eubanks on the feet, and Eubanks finished that fight strong. Aspen Ladd made weight yesterday. One of the reasons I enjoy doing this podcast after weigh-ins is due to the fact that we get to see fighters on the scales, and Aspen Ladd has had some major struggles in the past despite making weight. So in this fight, Ladd in my eyes, needs to get the takedown, needs to get into top control, and the fight could be a wrap from there. A lot easier said than done, though, right? So Kunitskaya, last time out, fought Marion Renault, and she ended up breaking her nose in that fight, and subsequently was medically suspended for a while. She ended up having a length of time where she focused on her grappling and wrestling, and I think that can only help her against someone with the skill set of Aspen Ladd. So in this fight, I think Kunitskaya has the ability to make it competitive, but as soon as Ladd gets the takedown, Kunitskaya is in trouble. And I think that that's the way this fight is going to play out. I'm going to be picking Aspen Ladd to win this fight by submission late. So give me Aspen Ladd in that fight. Next up, we have we've got two veterans of the sport. Ben Rothwell taking on Stefan Struve. Ben Rothwell, 8,600, minus 140 favorite, 38 years of age, taking on Stefan Struve, 7,600, the skyscraper, plus 120 underdog. Struve comes in with a 4.5-inch reach advantage. This fight is another one of those fights that's not expected to go to a decision at minus 145. Struve, 11 losses on his record. I feel so bad for Stefan Struve. He was like a kid fighting men when he first started. Especially watching him fight Alistair Overeem and JDS, and man, it's tough to watch somebody like that get thrown to the wolves so early. It's very dangerous. Now, Ben Rothwell, I was at his fight against Barnett and watched him lock up a submission there. He's not the same fighter he was. Watching his recent interviews and his performances, he hasn't evolved over the past 3 years or so. He's been popped by USADA. Just an angry dude. And I think the toll's starting to add up. But one thing about this guy, he does not give up. And you go back, do yourself a favor and watch his fight against Cain Velasquez. You have to kill Ben Rothwell to get him out of there. I know Arlovsky did it early in his career, but Rothwell is one tough dude, and Struve can be broken, as we've seen in the past. Problem with this fight is both of these fighters are shot, in my eyes, completely shot. And Struve's coming back from a retirement. He's coming back from a heart issue. We watched Andrei Arlovsky, of all people, take Struve down multiple times and just make easy work of him. Struve couldn't go out on a win and just stay retired, but he's back. And I'll be honest, I think Struve is a live dog in this spot. This reminds me of the Nogueira fight, where Struve, for once in his life, used his jab and pieced Nogueira up, and I think that's in play here. Rothwell is slow. He has difficulty getting takedowns. He has the same, when he feints, he feints the same way over and over again before setting up his uppercuts. And he's easy to figure out at this point. There's so much tape on him that I really think Struve, if he's able to keep distance, he could win this fight. And I'm actually going to be picking Stefan Struve to win a stand-up battle here. Kind of sad, because I have a lot of respect for Ben Rothwell and all he's done for mixed martial arts, despite getting popped by USADA a couple of times. By the way, that performance against Brandon Vera, I'll never forget that. That guy was a monster back then. But give me Stefan Struve to win as an underdog here. Dangerous fight though. Okay. Next up, we've got the co-main event of the evening. We've got Cynthia Calvillo, who missed weight. What a blunder. Oh my goodness. Against Marina Rodriguez. Cynthia Calvillo, 8-1 record. 7,800 in DraftKings, plus 150, plus 115. Let me get that right. Plus 115 underdog. 8,400 for Marina Rodriguez, minus 135 favorite. Marina Rodriguez coming in with a bit of a height advantage, 1-inch reach advantage. Rodriguez 12-0-1. Beautiful to watch Rodriguez fight when she's standing up. She has that Muay Thai that, those elbows, those knees. She's so quick too, and the way she fought Tisha Torres last time out was very, very impressive. So she's taking on a Cynthia Calvillo who has missed weight numerous times in the past. Scrappy fighter who, believe it or not, these fighters are the same age. You'd think that Calvillo was a little bit younger here, but Calvillo's career was derailed at one point due to a broken hand, and she that had trouble healing early in her career. So she would have more fights. So Calvillo went out to Tiger Muay Thai for this fight, for this camp, and she left Team Alpha Male, right? She's been with Justin Buchholz. This is one of those fights where you can't trust what you haven't seen recently. And I watched Cynthia Calvillo's last fight out against Courtney Casey, and one would think that considering the metrics and the stats, that Calvillo would come in looking for takedowns. That was not the case. She chose to engage in a striking battle with Courtney Casey, made the fight much, much closer than it needed to be. If you have money on the line and you're picking a fighter, that's a dangerous spot when they stay away from their strengths. Calvillo tried to get the fight to the ground a couple of times against Casey, wasn't able to do it. You look at other fights that Calvillo has had, and this isn't the first time where she's tested her stand-up against fighters that she could have potentially have a advantage on the ground against. Calvillo is just a natural when it comes to wrestling and finding the back of her opponents. She has a great rear naked choke. Marina Rodriguez has grown by leaps and bounds since her debut in the UFC against a tough vet in Randa Marcos. This fight is, to me, a definition of a stay-away fight. As far as DraftKings goes, though, you may want a piece of this because Rodriguez does throw high volume. And on the other hand, you have Calvillo who could win via submission. So this fight, to me, is very dangerous as far as picking a winner goes. You watch open workouts, you listen to interviews. I haven't heard anybody pin her down and say, why are you getting away from your greatest strength? And someone needs to ask her that, because Calvillo can win this fight. There's no doubt in my mind she can win this fight. And I think you go watch her Instagram and you listen to her interviews, and she basically calls herself a fatty, and to miss weight so many times is becoming an issue here at 115 pounds. She hasn't made the necessary steps or taken the necessary steps to ensure a proper weight cut, and I'm concerned about that. Marina Rodriguez gave her the 4 the four finger signifying that you missed by 4 pounds. What's up with that? And Marina Rodriguez is going to be angry in this spot. I think she's going to look to inflict more damage on Calvillo here. Problem for me with picking Rodriguez is her lanky physique lends itself to be taken down. I know Max Holloway, other fighters have done a great job with that type of physique. Her quickness, the ability to stay at range and also use those knees. I want to see what happens in the clinch here. I honestly I'm concerned that Calvillo may be dumb enough to test her stand up against Rodriguez. I think that's the worst idea on planet Earth right now. It pains me to say this, but I want to pick Calvillo to win this fight by submission, and I'm going to do it. That's going to be my pick. Calvillo wins by submission, but I want to see Rodriguez win this fight. I want to see Rodriguez finish Calvillo on the feet, and it wouldn't surprise me to see Marina Rodriguez put on a striking clinic here. Another thing that I heard in the interview with a few interviews was that with Calvillo, I didn't have a plan B in my previous fights. I need to switch things up when the going gets tough. Well, here's an example of a fight where you'll need to do that. So if she wakes up and goes to her plan B, smart move on her point. I don't even think there should be a striking plan A for her. She should totally commit to grappling in this spot. And Rodriguez does have a ground game. She's got some slick submissions of her own, but I think that for Calvillo to even attempt to stand up with Rodriguez is a very bad idea. So give me Calvillo to win by submission in this spot. Next up, we've got the main event of the evening. Great matchup between Alistair Overeem and Jandiroba-Martin. Rozenstruik coming in on supposed short notice, but he is coming off of the quick knockout victory of Andrei Arlovski. Rozenstruik 7,900 in DraftKings. Now is the favorite. Look at that, -120 Rozenstruik. Taking on Alistair Overeem, 8,300 in DraftKings, +100 underdog. It's pretty wild to hear underdog. For Overeem, 45-17 record for Alistair, 9-0 record for Rozenstruik. Rozenstruik has been training at Hard Knocks 365. This fight does not go the distance. Look at that, -800. You could have all the tools in the world, all the advantages in the world, and somebody hits you on the chin hard enough, lights go out. That doesn't mean a damn thing. So I'll cut right to the chase. Alistair has Rozenstruik beaten as far as a skills perspective, experience perspective on the feet, leaps and bounds. He's got knees. He's got all the striking accolades. He's got a ground game, sick guillotine, sick kimura, ground and pound. But Rozenstruik is a very dangerous fighter, and people don't want to talk about his over 60 knockout victories in kickboxing against, opponents who don't have names. But Rozenstruik's going to go hunting for Overeem's chin, and that's going to be his sole mission. If he touches Alistair's chin once, it could even be a jab, he could rock Alistair Overeem, and it could be good night, Irene, for Overeem. Alistair's been knocked out 16 times in his professional kickboxing and mixed martial arts career. Ironically, his older brother retired after being knocked out for the 16th time in professional kickboxing as well as mixed martial arts. So I totally understand why people are picking Alistair Overeem to win this fight. He, from a skills perspective, has more than what it takes to get this fight to the ground, smother Jair, and get him out of there. He could do it handily and make it look very easy. But Rozenstruik, people might say he didn't have a full camp. He's coming off of that fight against Arlovsky that he didn't get touched, and then went right into this brief camp for this fight. I think that Rozenstruik is going to surprise a lot of people. I think he is going to find Alistair's chin. And a concern of mine, though, is that he may end up doing it with one strike, and then from a DraftKings perspective, you could be losing a GPP because of it. And that's a challenge. That's an issue that I would look out for. You may want to hunt for fighters who have the potential to do a lot more in that first round and get a late first round finish. As far as the damage meter goes, though, Alistair doesn't tend to take a lot of damage and then get finished. You even look at that fight against Curtis Blades. Alistair hung in there and then just ate a few elbows late, and he was done. The Ngannou fight, the Sergey Karatanov fight, the Bigfoot Silva fight, the Rothwell fight. Man, it could go up and down the line. I wish Alistair Overeem would have retired after the Pavlovich victory. Now, Alistair could come in here. There are no certainties in this game. It's lined like this for a reason. This is more of a coin flip fight, but I'm going to be picking Rozenstruik to win this fight. Want to wish everybody a great fight morning and enjoy the fights tonight at UFC Washington, D.C. I want to thank everybody at BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker for hosting the podcast. And you can follow me over at Coppertech as well as BetMMA.tips. Go out and get what's yours, my friends. This is what it's all about. Win those DraftKings contests and go get what's yours.